Okay, if you're watching this video, I'm gonna throw out a little bit of knowledge to you all. I'm at Universal right now. Most likely waiting in line to get my Rush of Fear pass or my new annual pass renewed. So I said that I would be the only person you would see on this channel while I was gone. Well, we worked something out. And before I get going, sorry, this isn't a Prisoners review. I wish it were. It kind of comes out in a couple days, so can't really do that. I'm doing the time travel thing again. So we're going to talk about the movies that we watched the other day, actually, last weekend. Since this weekend, we're going to be talking about that, and we actually watched those on Sunday last week. So there are 3 movies, and movies that maybe you've seen, maybe you haven't seen. So, AJ, take it away.
Alright. Well, you know a lot about our first movie already.
Yep.
Hugh Jackman and Maria Bello go to a Thanksgiving dinner with Viola Davis and Terrence Howard.
Of course.
Oops.
Yeah. That Prisoners review, that video's not coming out until the beginning of October, and I'm sorry for that.
What I meant to say was, you know what's really funny is I've actually read the script for Prisoners, so I could literally give you a review right now, but I'll wait.
That's almost worth giving you to do that right now, right here on the fly.
And as far as my research goes, apparently nothing's been changed. So really? I pretty much know Prisoners already.
Okay.
But for now, we'll go indie, and we will do all 3 movies in this video were in competition at Sundance.
Yes.
And they all lost to Fruitvale.
Yes. But like you do with this year, apparently.
We're going to start with The Spectacular now, which I don't have any notes on these. I read the book and the script for Spectacular Now, so I already know, before we even saw it, I knew it front to back.
Yes.
Which we'll get into in a second as far as the book's concerned. And I also read the book for Austenland.
And
so the only movie I didn't really know front to back before the day we saw it was Inked and Body Stains. So.
Which was on your anticipated list for the rest of the year. Just like Spectacular Now was actually on my anticipated list for the rest of the year.
So I'm actually doing this without notes, which I think the Inked and Body Stains review is going to suffer from, but...
We've got Wikipedia, we're fine.
I generally just, write down a few things that are noteworthy.
Yeah.
But that theater's so dark.
I know. And the funny thing is, I'm kind of in this, like, box seat. And you're kind of over, like, neck on the opposite side. There's literally a wall between me and the other seat next to me. And yeah, it's extremely dark in there. And it gets even more dark than most theaters I've ever been to.
Yeah, I don't think this is too big of a deal because it's already been out for a month and a half officially. But this review for The Spectacular Now is going to be totally and completely spoilery. Yeah, I'm just going to kind of go through it.
Okay.
Because, like, those people that complain, these reviews are way too long. They're not even reviews. They're, like, the whole movie. And it's like, well, we're analyzing. We're not just saying, hey, go see this. It's not like a fucking advertisement or anything.
It's not like a 5 to 10 minute video.
Unless the movie sucks, in which case we would very much like to say, don't do that.
Slap you on your hand in a verbal way.
I'm really thinking about seeing Riddick this weekend. You stop that right now.
Actually, there's something that comes out of Grindhouse that just comes to mind. It's like, don't! You want to go watch Riddick? Don't!
So, it's funny, that comes from Edgar Wright, who did one of the better movies this year. So.
Yeah, probably the best pure comedy of the year.
Yeah, it's definitely the funniest movie of the year, but we're almost 5 minutes in, haven't even talked about the fucking Spectacular Now yet, so let's do that.
And we were 5 minutes in without you cursing, too, so there you go.
Alright, so, people may or may not know who Miles Teller is.
Okay.
He's the kid in Rabbit Hole.
Yep.
I think we went through this for, 21 and over.
We did. I think that
we're going to do this again.
Go ahead.
He was in, he's the Chris Penn replacement in the Footloose remake.
Yes.
And he played himself in Project X.
Yes.
And of course, he tried to be Jonah Hill in 21 and over. But everybody knows Shailene Woodley because of
The Descendants.
that TV show than
Like,
The Descendants.
The Descendants is how I know her.
And the fact
obviously.
that she played Mary Jane in Spider-Man 2 and got cut, and she's not going to be in it until the third one, basically.
Yeah.
I hear she's going to have like a cameo at the end of this one.
She does. That's what everybody's saying, at least.
And together they won an acting award at Sundance for this.
Very nice.
So basically, it's hard to do this without going. I'll save the book script, whatever contrasts for the end.
Okay.
I'll try to separate my mind from what was the movie and what was the book, because I might have trouble doing that.
He's going to be that guy, folks.
Yeah, I know you're not supposed to be that guy, but it happens sometimes.
Yeah, understandable.
So, especially when a source material is so good, you tend to not be able to, it's hard to get it out of your head.
Sure.
So, Miles Teller's Sutter, who is this, oddly enough, they never bring it up in the movie, but clearly he's an alcoholic.
Oh, yeah. No question.
And he... I'm stopping myself. There's been like 5 times in just saying 2 sentences where I've said, in the book it was this, but in the movie it's this, but it's out of my head. We're doing just the movie until the end.
Okay.
Okay. And then the opening scene before they share the title ends with him. Well, he's driving off into the night, and he's drunk as fuck because Brie Larson broke up with him.
Yes.
For this, I forget what he is. He's an athlete.
Yeah. He's like the star athlete. He's like class president, valedictorian. He's that guy. He's your boy Steve from A Chronicle.
Steve Montgomery.
Yes.
The fruit ale that beat them.
Yes.
So, Sutter Coolidge just always getting beat by Michael B. Jordan. Okay, so, and he crashes his car.
Yes.
And after we see the title, he wakes up, and there is Amy Feneke, who is,
Shailene Woodley.
Yes. Yeah. But she's like the outcast, and he's like the popular. He thinks he's the popular kid. We actually learn more later. But
It's all work.
So they seem like an odd placement. But he's kind of the guy that hangs out with everybody, so he says, why not?
Of course.
So he goes and he helps her deliver papers, even though she, he kind of gets on her case because she basically does it because her mom's too lazy.
Yeah.
Like her mom gets most of the money she gets from it and all that. And she's got like a deadbeat stepdad or something.
Correct.
Of course, it's very pretty in Pink.
Yeah.
He's got friends on his side saying, oh, she's the weird girl. And she's got friends on her side saying, oh, he's a piece of shit. And so, in so many words.
And then Freddie Prinze Jr. comes in
and John Cryer does a number to try a little tenderness. And,
we already talked about that on this channel.
No, they actually, there's no, thank Christ. A movie based off a young adult novel does not have a fucking love triangle in it.
No, it's definitely not a love triangle.
Well, no, that's not really true, because you have him and Cassidy and, I can't remember his fucking name, the athlete.
His name is Marcus.
Yes, that's it. Yeah, so he Marcus, and Cassidy kind of have a love triangle going, but it's not really a main focus.
She actually just plays it off like they're just really good friends, and they just hang out on the regular just because they're good friends. Because you can do that,
He keeps going, like... There's always like a tease every now and then they might actually get back together.
Yeah, exactly.
But, that obviously doesn't happen.
Nope.
His sister is played by Mary Elizabeth Winstead. So right now it's worth noting that the director is James Sponsel, who did Smashed.
Which is awesome if you haven't seen it.
Yeah. She's the reason the movie's great.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking
Aaron
about.
Paul's great in it too, but...
Another movie that deals with alcoholism in some ways.
To show people the potential Mary Elizabeth Winstead has is the whole reason Smashed exists, basically.
It was actually on a lot of people's radar for the Oscars for a long time, and then eventually it just kind of disappeared.
She got a Spirit nomination, as everybody predicted, and that was it. So, and his mom is played by Jennifer Jason Leigh. Mm-hmm. We're just picking up indie actresses left and right.
Woo, let's do this.
It's like an indie actor stew in here. And she's not, people, like, if you search around the internet, people love Jennifer Jason Leigh that, like, still realize that she's alive.
Yeah.
So she has a few scenes in this. She's very natural. Like, I loved her first scene when they're just in the kitchen and he's just like eating Cheerios and she's talking about how irresponsible he is just because he didn't hang up her shirt when that was like the only thing she asked him to do.
Yeah.
She had that very naturally motherly way about her. And she gets a big scene at the end, but we'll gradually go there. He has his boss is Bob Odenkirk.
That's amazing.
And that's like our first hint that he actually has an alcohol problem. Is he's got the fucking flask, and we see him like filling like a knockoff 7-Eleven cup with it.
I believe the actual wording is Thirstmaster. You see it for a split second on the camera shot at the beginning of the movie.
Alright, so I need to wake up.
It reminds me a lot of where Jim Sturgis worked at in 21. That same exact setup is pretty much what Sutter does for a living.
So, yeah, it's this, that's not what I pictured when I was reading about it. Sorry to go there, but this place is like a shoebox of a place.
Yes.
It kind of looks like the set of like a really low-budget play.
Yeah.
Like the set for American Buffalo or something.
Nice.
So it's but then of course the thing with him and Amy is he generally is trying to, like, they go to that party, and basically the general idea is to throw her off onto somebody else. Like she loves those sci-fi books and she draws like the pictures and makes her own books and stuff like that. So he basically goes up and takes her up to this guy, and he gets them started on that book, and then he just walks away and leaves her there.
Yeah.
But somehow we don't know really what his intentions are, because right after that scene, after he's tried to throw her onto, well, it might have to do with was Marcus at that party? I think he was. I think everybody was at that party.
I believe it's one of those beach party type deals where no one gets in the water.
The one for grown-ups too.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm sorry to throw grown-ups into a spectacular analysis because the quality is so in different places.
For people that are fans of the Juggalo Gathering, I'll just use the analogy of it's might as well be lake hepatitis.
So, while at this party, it's hard to tell if when he and Amy are walking through the woods and when they're leaving the party, they have this really nice and natural conversation.
Yeah.
That's a kind of, I know you're supposed to like that and want that because that's what makes the movies like this work.
Yes.
But I suppose if you're tired of indie movies that come off natural, this movie is going to drive you insane.
I can see that.
So anyway, I could see people like throwing that as a fault, because I do see, even though it works for this movie, there's a lot of movies that make it painfully obvious and you just want to rip your head off of your shoulders.
I can understand that.
But this one manages to do it pretty well, which is why Miles Teller and Shailene Woodley won acting awards at Sundance.
Exactly.
But yeah, they do this very natural conversation in the woods, which leads to their kiss. But you don't really know what his agenda is, because it could just be, like
he's using her to get back at Cassidy.
Or she could just be something to conquer, or he could really like her.
Freddie Prinze Jr., she's on that.
So, yeah, I was never thinking about how this. Yeah, I think a lot of reviews brought that up.
I've never read a review for this movie, so there you go.
This is one of those movies where on the surface it looks about as cliche as you can possibly get.
It's not, though.
But when you actually, go into the story, it's got a lot of interesting directions.
When you dig into it, you notice that it's a lot different than you were anticipating it would be.
And of course, he takes her to prom and all that, which, if any of the book lovers are reading this, know the prom is actually not a disaster in the movie.
No, not even close.
So, the prom scene is actually very short.
Yeah.
I was, jarred by that. But then the plot point comes in to where he's been telling her stories about his dad, who we never see, and how he's like a pilot or something.
He's a pilot, yeah.
And then, there's the big scene where the really awkwardly realistic, they love doing that in indie movies, the awkwardly realistic scene where he takes her virginity. And then afterwards, he's like, "Oh, by the way, I totally have no idea where my dad is. He's not a pilot."
Yeah.
So she says, well, how about, if I tell my mom to go fuck herself, you tell your mom to, that you're going to go see your dad. And
Yeah.
he gets really pumped, and he gets the number and the address from Mary Elizabeth Winstead, who reluctantly gives it to him, because he's pissed off because they've been hiding him from him, basically.
And it's clear that she's been burned by him before, so that's why she's very, not quick to give him the information.
And she's
he
like,
wants.
It's a really tough scene, because you can see how, nothing has happened to Sutter yet, but you can see how broken Holly is because she knows what's going to happen to him.
That's true.
When he goes down there.
It's like something you have to learn on your own. You can't, I can't tell you what's going to happen. You just have to live it.
So, so he calls up his dad. His dad has a name, but I forget what it is. Fuck it. It's Kyle Chandler.
Yeah, it is. 'Cause why not? Why not be Kyle Chandler? Because, my God, the guy can't be in absolutely everything this year.
Okay, so he calls him up, and he's, he doesn't even recognize who he is.
No.
He has to tell him, Dad, it's Sutter. And then he's, hey, you still, really into baseball? And he's like, no. And it's like, man, that's really disappointing. You're not still in baseball. Sutter doesn't realize it yet because he's still so hyped up. But because, his dad actually seems very pleased to hear from him.
Yeah.
But you can kind of, if you know what's happening, you can kind of sense his dad being disappointed that he's not a baseball player anymore. Like, his dad's already starting to lose interest in him before that phone call's even over.
Yeah.
And then they make a date for, I think it was Friday.
Yeah.
He said, just come by at 3 p.m. and, we're going to hang out. And so, he and Amy get in the car and they go down there. Book lovers are realizing how really edited down the story is. Because it takes forever to get to this point in the book. And they get to the apartment. You can tell this apartment's like a shit.
Yeah.
It's like the Bruges of apartments.
It costs $15, and that's it.
And drunk, raggedy-ass Kyle Chandler answers the door.
500 o'clock shadow for days.
Takes him, if I remember correctly, it takes him forever to answer the door, too.
It does.
They almost think he's not even home, and they're getting ready to leave, and he's just, What's funny is Kyle Chandler's generally got this Prince Charming look about him.
Not this time.
So when he opens the door, it's just like, Jesus. Like, didn't you say you weren't even sure for sure it was him until the credits?
Yeah, it's kind of like, that's Kyle Chandler. I was like, wait a minute, is that Kyle Chandler? Do I want to say this on camera and look like an idiot? No, it's Kyle Chandler. We're fine. Okay, we're fine.
So, and of course, he's baffled. He doesn't recognize Sutter and
Nope.
did not remember that they made a plan. And
No.
his excitement isn't as much as it was on the phone. And basically, he's just ready to go down to the bar and hang out, which is apparently his routine.
Yeah.
So, instead of, hanging out and catching up, he decides to take them to the bar.
Yep. Buys them a picture. They're underage. There you go.
And we don't necessarily know if he's caught on right away. I think he's still confident for a while, but we catch on right away that Sutter's dad is clearly the future version of Sutter.
Yeah.
Because he acts the same way. He's got friends that he thinks aren't. I forgot to touch on that, by the way. We'll go back to. This kind of goes back to the scene where Marcus questions Sutter about, Sutter thinks he's about to get the shit beat out of him, but then Marcus just kind of breaks down and says, like, what do I do, man? Like, how do I be like you? And he just kind of tells him, and then just as a passing comment, I don't think he realizes what he was saying, but just on his way out casually, Marcus just says, you're not the joke everybody thinks you are. And that's when it kind of hits Sutter like, what the fuck?
But he probably just brushed it off because he was like, he's just jealous of me.
So, but yeah, by this point in the movie, we know that Sutter is not the bee's knees that he thinks he is.
No.
And we're realizing that his dad is exactly the same way.
Yeah, that's what Sutter will become if his downward spiral reaches its plateau.
We never get to know the people at the bar, but I'm pretty sure if we did, Sutter's dad walks around the bar like he's all that, like he's friends with everybody. And when he comes in and he knows everyone, like, these are the guys, and he's, introducing everybody. Something tells me the people at the bar probably don't give a shit about it.
Oh, well, don't forget about the barfly that he tries to play off as his girlfriend.
Yeah, that's never really, it's like...
Is that, I know we're not going into this yet, but is that even talked about in the book at all?
She's basically she's basically his girlfriend, just...
She seems really apprehensive in the movie. She kind of comes off like, why are you talking to me? Oh, by the way, 15 minutes later, I'm going to go take Crystal back to the house. I'll just meet you guys later.
Yeah, and he, I actually read that, obviously in the normal story, he says, could you guys, like, pick up the tab? I gotta go real quick. And,
it says in the movie, too.
In the, source materials, plural, they just get up and leave.
Okay.
Miles Teller and Shailene Woodley themselves actually did the whole, scrounging their wallets for money thing.
That's a realistic thing that would happen, though, if you were thrown in that situation.
So then they go back to his place. They were going to follow him out to the woman's house, but he's very, like, no, just go back to my place. I'll meet you there in about an hour. And I think we're probably supposed to assume they've been there for a while. Mm-hmm. They're just hanging out. It's starting to rain, and nobody's there. So Sutter gets pissed off and takes on... When people fucking drive angry.
Yeah.
He goes back to the bar, and there's his dad just hanging out. Probably totally forgetting they were even there.
Totally drunk, too, easily.
So Sutter decides... It finally registers in his mind.
Yep.
What's happening here. So he decides to go home, and he's pissed off, and that's this really, really heartbreaking scene where Amy basically confesses her love to him, and he not only doesn't want it, but he doesn't even believe that she's, like, really truthful about it.
It reminds me of Holden and Alyssa and Chasing Amy. It's that kind of powerful.
The rain and everything.
Yep, exactly.
To the point that he literally... Because she says that she loves him, he kicks her out of the car in the middle of the fucking highway.
Yeah.
And she, I was actually a little disappointed with this. It's very dramatic and sudden and whoa.
Jarring.
When it happens in the source material.
Mm.
What happens is when Amy gets out of the car, she's like crying to figure out what's wrong with Sutter, and she gets hit by a car.
Yeah.
The movie makes all this happen very suddenly, and I didn't find it as effective. Like, it was just kind of, I don't know what criticism I'm trying to throw at.
There's more of a build-up for it than the source material?
Not really, just the, I guess the execution of it. It just seemed kind of...
I think the shot looked weird, too, because, to be totally honest, it looked like she got nicked by the side, and she doesn't get hit by it.
It all happens really fast. Like, in the span of, like, a fraction of a second, we see her get hit, we see him scream, and then it cuts to black.
Yeah. Of course, we end up in a hospital. Because that's how it works.
Yeah, I suppose we can start getting into the source material now.
We're not spoiling the movie first.
In that he gets... Well, this is almost where the book ends. The movie has a couple more scenes after where the movie ended.
Oh, okay, you're going to go into that. Okay, right.
Or before the movie ended. It's really sudden. Like, there's this... Like, after she gets hit by the car in the book, he gets out of the car and, like, has to go, like, track down wherever the fuck she landed and pick her up and carry her and go to the hospital, if I remember correctly. But the movie is very, very... almost like it's trying to move along as fast as it can.
It's very rushed.
And then, of course, they have to call his mom, and I assume he got busted for being drunk.
Yeah. Or wait a minute, maybe they called his mom so he didn't have to go to jail.
It was probably
they gave him an ultimatum.
Yeah. I think that's what they do.
Right.
Because he is underage.
Exactly.
So, basically, that's pretty much where they part ways. And she does her thing, and he does her thing, and all that. And then, they've been building up through the whole movie. She's going to go to Philadelphia to be with her sister.
Correct.
And live down there, and she wants him to go.
Yeah.
And he's basically agreed to it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's one of those things where you don't agree to it, but you don't say anything to the point that the other person feels convinced enough that you did say yes.
And when Cassidy reveals at graduation that she's going to be moving to California with Marcus, he even more wants to get out of there as well.
So, so then of course we have the scene where he's, driving by the bus station.
Yeah.
And she's there waiting for him. And he just lets her go.
Yep.
So, that's kind of cruel on his part to stand by on. I mean, I know it wasn't to be cruel, but just on the outskirts of it, it's like, wow, he actually stood there and watched her heart break before she left.
It's something that I know you would never do, and it's something I damn sure never would do, personally, so I don't see the reason a character would do that.
So after he watches her leave, he goes to the bar,
Yes.
a bar, and hangs out with these drunk guys, and just kind of hangs out with him, and says, you know what, I don't know what the fuck I'm going to do, I don't care what the fuck I'm going to do, I'm just going to sit here and drink, and see what happens.
It's probably friends of his dad, if I remember correctly. They might have been the same people.
And then this is back at home.
Uh-huh.
Now him at the bar, that's where the book ends.
Okay.
The movie adds on 2 scenes.
Yes.
Which, there's one scene that's in the movie that's not in the book that I like that they put in. The other one...
Not so much.
Yeah.
Okay, go into that.
The really good scene that they put in was... I don't remember this ever being in the book. It might have just been out of order. But I don't recall it. After he's left the bar, he goes home and crashes into his own mailbox. And his mom comes out and they have... This is Jennifer Jason Leigh's big scene. Like, she's thanking the movie gods that they wrote this part in because it wouldn't have been there if they went strictly by the source material.
Of course.
They go inside the house and they're having this argument. She's talking about how he initially had gone to her and asked for his dad's information, and she didn't. So she's saying, you know, fine, if you want your dad's stuff and you want to see, you know, what that's like, then go ahead. And that's when he confesses that he already went the week before, and that's why he's still been out of shape.
Of course.
And then there's this big breakdown scene where he's under the impression that's... He comes to the realization, of course. It's kind of spelled out what we already knew. He's afraid that's what he's going to become. And
exactly.
She has to convince him otherwise. And they both have a big emotional scene.
Of course.
Now, then they decided to tack on the sideways ending. He decides to go to Philadelphia after all.
Yep.
And he's hanging out outside the school... And she comes out. And by the look on her face, we don't know if she's about to run into his arms or say, I don't know what the fuck this is, but it's too late now. And it cuts to black and ends. She could have been about to do either one.
You're supposed to probably draw your own conclusion if I had to guess. I know, but still, that's exactly what they're doing right there.
Like I said, as far as Sideways is concerned, he might as well have just walked up to her dorm door and knocked on it and not have been.
It's like the ending of Excess Baggage.
I hardly even remember that movie.
I actually like that movie.
I remember I knew about it for a long time, and it blew my mind when I got older and I realized it was Benicio del Toro.
So most people realized who Christine Taylor was before the Brady Bunch movie.
Well, nobody knows Hey Dude.
Oh.
Alright, so,
That's true.
So,
she's amazing on Hey Dude.
So, I really like the movie the way it is, and I'm sure I would have liked it so much better if, forgive me, I hadn't read the script in the book first. Because the script cut out a lot of the book stuff, but the script still had some book stuff that inevitably wasn't in the movie.
Okay.
Like, there's this, he goes to a party at a hotel, and in, like, the lobby where, like, the hot tub is, he meets up with one of his exes, and they have, like, a little banter and all that. I don't really... There is some kind of point to it, like, I guess to kind of bring out his personality more, like, the stuff... to see him from another ex's perspective, so we can get a more well-rounded picture of him.
Yeah.
They kept that in the script, but it was eventually cut out of the script, apparently, because it's not in the movie.
It's a short movie, though.
Yeah, it feels like it's 20 minutes long when you know the source material pretty well.
Yeah.
There's a whole opening with him and this kid at the convenience store.
Yeah.
Where, like, the kid's just hanging out and running away from home, and he takes the kid back home and hits on the kid's mom, and then he leaves, and that whole thing is cut out. That was also kept in the script, but cut out of the movie. the first scene with Holly when they have dinner at her house. Her name is Holly, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
The scene is really short because they just have the dinner scene, and then she says, "Oh, by the way, my dad's dead," and there's an awkward silence. But then, oh, that's another piece of information we've learned about her. This is great. There's like a whole other thing where he like, if I remember correctly, he like goes into her closet to do something and accidentally sets it on fire, and he gets thrown out of the house. That wasn't there. A big thing, a huge thing they took out of the movie, and the script had it too. They really just cut this script up.
They had to, given the time frame of the film.
Because the script took a lot from the novel, surprisingly. That entire subplot where Amy turns into an alcoholic is not here. Well, we see her, like, you know, take some drinks, and the scene is there before they go to prom when he gives her a flask.
With her name on it.
That's full.
Of course.
But she never descends in alcoholism like she does in the book. And that goes into the prom stuff. Like, she gets fucking hammered at the prom and, like, is puking, and he gets on stage and makes an idiot out of himself and calls out their teacher and all that. All of this is gone. The prom could have been like a whole 20-minute centerpiece, and it's like 2 minutes long. And very happy.
Extremely happy.
So, trying to think of what other differences are in here. I think that about covers it.
I would hope, and I don't know if it will or not. I mean, I remember how Perks broke out, like the way it broke out. I want this to end up to break out like Perks did. But with the cast, I'm not sure it's going to. Because there are recognizable names in this cast.
This isn't a big difference or anything, but another difference from the book to the movie is there's a Chase building. Mm-hmm. It's like really big where you can see it from almost anywhere in the town.
Of course.
And Sutter's story is his dad works at the top of it.
Ah.
And that's his, instead of the whole pilot thing.
Well, the book takes place in Oklahoma. And they shot it in Athens, Georgia, so...
Where'd you look this up? Oh, you're looking at it right now?
Yeah, good times.
You sound all information-like. And
I really do! Thank you, Wikipedia, and all your awesomeness.
So, yeah, the movie's perfectly fine.
Yeah.
It's just... I know it kind of sucks when you feel this need for some reason to compare it to the book, but when you do, the movie feels like it's...
2 minutes long?
It just goes way too fast.
Yeah, you just slow down, take your time.
I really don't know why they cut out the Amy being an alcoholic thing, because that's like a whole thing.
I think the director didn't feel like it was needed. Considering they had to cut a lot of stuff out anyway.
I guess he was all alcoholed out after Smash.
Yeah, maybe. That's a possible answer, too.
But yeah, we actually went 33 minutes on this.
I'll say right now, and I don't know how you're going to agree with this, when it comes down to, like I said, my list, I talked about this being on here, and I was really excited to hear from this movie when I heard about the story of the movie, and I was like, this sounds kind of familiar. So, obviously, as you guys and girls out there know, that if I can connect to a movie in one way or another, I'm going to like it more. Well, I watched this movie, and I loved it from beginning to end. I did not read the source material. And I thought it was an awesome film that I think people need to watch. And I actually got into a conversation today with someone about how I understand why you do it, but I don't see the need to have to read source material in order to better understand a movie that I'm about to watch. Because sometimes...
It's probably even better because...
It's not a good thing to do that.
Because Perks was in my top 5 last year.
Yes.
And I didn't read the book for that, so... I don't know if that would have changed me or not.
Yeah, I loved Perks. Perks was awesome. I was very big in the Spectacular Now, and I really hope that it gets more than Spirit Awards.
Spectacular Now is not Perks good, but...
No, but I mean, it's good, and it's award-worthy. I don't think it's going to get anything
it's
high level, but I mean, it's award-worthy without question.
Its performances stand out more than Perks, we can say that.
Yeah, Miles Teller and Shailene Woodley had great performances.
Jennifer Jason Leigh, even
definitely.
Kyle Chandler.
He'll get a nomination eventually because he does too much work.
I'm not really into Brie Larson. Like, she hasn't really done anything that's like... I mean, apparently
21 Jump Street?
Apparently, Apparently, she's really, really like Oscar worthy, and her new movie Short Term 12.
Yeah, I've been reading about that actually.
But I have no idea when we're gonna see that.
We'll probably get it next year if I do.
But until then, she hasn't really done anything to make me say there's actually. I generally go by 21 Jump Street, but honestly, when I hear Brie Larson's name, the first thing I do is try to put the face with her name because I don't remember. Oh yeah, that's weird.
That's funny. We're not going to tell you what I'm talking about because that's kind of blowing a spot for something.
Yeah, and she's in Dawn John later. She's Joseph Gordon-Levitt's sister.
She's also one of the millions and millions of ladies in Scott Pilgrim as well.
Yeah. But yeah, just yeah.
There's a lot of good movies on that list of what she's been in, but a lot of bad ones too.
So there's Rampart.
Yeah,
we could talk about Rampart, but my time is valuable. That's a Reddit joke.
Yeah, it is.
All right, we should probably go on to Austenland now.
Wow. Okay, let's do this.
Once again, I know it's very. This sounds really weird for me to say, but let me elaborate. This year, I really went out on reading books that movies were being made for.
Correct.
In any other circumstance, I probably never would have been even close to the book for Austenland.
No.
Because I've never even, I don't think I've even seen with my eyes a Jane Austen book. Like sitting in a store even, let alone picked one up and actually read it.
You don't go to the airports.
And
if you did, you would see them everywhere.
And most movies based on her books bore the shit out of me.
Correct.
So, I didn't know what I was going to think of this, but I did. I thought it was a very interesting concept when I learned of that.
Yeah.
So I opened the book and just watched where it went, and it's very entertaining.
Yeah, definitely.
and like hilarious. I was not expecting that.
No.
And the movie's probably even better than the book is.
Really?
There are some obvious changes, but they're not distracting like they were in the Spectacular now. Okay. And it's kind of that's one thing. The director, they really need to I believe she's Jared Hess's sister or wife. Okay.
No.
And
just
Jared
found it right here.
Jared Hess is. I mean, I'm sure in real life, like in person, like if I were to meet him, I'll bet he'd be really cool and a really nice guy. But for the love of fuck, I cannot stand a single movie he's made. The closest I came to liking one of his movies was Nacho Libre. And that's bad. That's a bad thing to say.
Well, I mean, most people didn't even see Gentlemen Broncos.
Gentlemen Broncos, I almost committed suicide while watching.
It made Jermaine Clement in a bad movie.
He did get an In-Spirit Award nomination for it.
That was awesome.
It was actually my introduction to him.
Yeah.
Because I was like, what's Benicio del Toro doing in this movie?
Yeah.
And we won't even go into Napoleon Dynamite because I don't want the internet hating me. But
yeah.
I'm sure about half of them will be on my side. But
I'm sure there would be probably more than half nowadays.
Let's hope. Anyway, yeah, because that's the way the internet works. Is it's cool to like something for a while, but then when it becomes cool for everybody to like it, it's not cool anymore.
It's Dane Cook. Everyone loved Dane Cook until he got big. And they turned on him.
So, if you don't know, the story is basically she's obsessed. Not only is she obsessed with Jane Austen's novels, particularly Pride and Prejudice, she has a weird fascination with Colin Firth himself. She's got like a cardboard stand-up of him, and one of her boyfriends gets pissed off and punches its head, and it comes off. But she still keeps the Colin Firth stand-up even with its head dangling off.
Yeah.
There's actually a point in the book. A difference between the book and the movie is, in the movie she uses her life savings to go to Austenland. In the book, she got an inheritance. And when her, I think it was her grandma or something, was giving her the inheritance, when she came over, she had to pick up her Pride and Prejudice DVDs and hide them behind the counter.
Nice.
So, but anyway, Jane Seymour basically runs this place where it's basically a Jane Austen theme park, is what they call it, but it's not exactly that.
That's like saying the Wizarding World of Harry Potter is a theme park.
You basically, All your outside technology is forbidden. It's like a Tarantino set.
It's Colonial Williamsburg, basically, for Jane Austen fans.
And you go there in attire, and they give you like a different name and an occupation, and you go. And there's very, very strict rules. Like if you like break the mood at all, you're like sent home.
Yeah, you're going home.
Especially if they find you with technology.
It's like a reality show. Kind of, to be totally honest.
It's one waiting to happen. I don't think they'd use Austen novels, but they do something.
Something.
So yeah, I was just being really happy about the Spectacular. Now I'm not doing this, but you know, whatever. This movie's got a love triangle.
Yeah, it does.
Because that's like nobody knows what else to do anymore.
No, especially not independent movies.
But this one actually works.
Definitely.
I won't say, but I'll just say this one goes in an interesting place. But she naturally falls for Brett McKenzie. Speaking of Jermaine.
Yes. Flight of the Conchords rules review.
And Brett is like this stable boy or something.
Yeah. Stable boy. I did not mean to do that, I promise.
So, but she's generally supposed to fall in love with...
Their resident Mr. Darcy.
Nobly's his name.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, got it. Without looking. And he's a douche, of course. But that's the interesting thing, though, is the fact that these are all people playing parts.
Yes. He plays the pompous ass very well.
And everybody, basically, it's the whole point of Austenland is that you can come here and find love.
Yeah.
Despite the fact that it's all set up.
It's like finding it's reliving your fantasy.
Yeah. Having your own Mr. Darcy, basically.
Yes, and that's exactly what Nobly is their Mr. Darcy.
So, we have Jennifer Coolidge, who is, for the most part, hilarious.
Yeah.
And she's basically this... She's never read an Austen novel in her life.
Nope.
Like she was saying, like Carrie Russell says, oh, do you love Pride and Prejudice too? And she's like, what's that?
What's that?
And she really, really overdoes the accent.
Oh my god. For any of you viewers out there who think I'm heavy on the British accent, no, not even close.
It's like embarrassing in a hilarious way.
It's bad too.
I'm really surprised she wasn't thrown out. And then she gets attached to this guy. This guy was hilarious. I don't know his name. I don't know his real name.
I got it.
He is... Yeah, what was his character name?
His name is Colonel Andrews.
Yeah, that's right. And this guy is very flamboyant. Like
yeah.
There's even a scene where Carrie Russell tries to break it to her because Jennifer Coolidge is like all over him.
Yeah.
And she's like, I just want to tell you that I think Colonel Andrews might be... And there's anticipation, and she says, the absolute best thing for you. And then she hugs him and says, she hugs her and says, oh, thank God, I thought you were going to say he was gay.
That's nice.
And there's that scene where they do the play that goes really, really wrong. There's George East, who is this he's like the original Old Spice guy.
Mixed with Michael Pena. Because he's got that same kind of personality.
And Michael Pena in 30 Minutes or Less.
He is he used to play footy.
Yeah. And he's like this really bad soap opera star.
Yeah.
And there's the other girl, the girl that's like meant for him, like the blonde that's really uptight, and it gets her eye taken out during the play.
Lady Amelia Cartwright.
But the main story is basically she falls for Brett, but then she also starts to fall for
Nobly,
and things get complicated. But like I said, the ending is they take that in a very interesting direction that you're probably not thinking of.
No,
which is refreshing. And yeah, this is just a really there's seeing that the people in there. We were in there with 11 people that were in the same group.
We thought
all together.
I thought they were a book club.
We never really got confirmation, so
no, we really didn't.
But they were particularly loving this.
Yeah.
Particularly the scene where we're going back to the. Oh my God. We're going back to the internship bringing this song up.
Yeah.
Thank you, Max Mangilla, for that. Kara Russell's asked to play a song on the piano, and she chooses, I can never remember, who is it that did that song?
Nelly.
Yes.
He even says it in the song.
Yeah. That's what he always did.
Nelly hang all out.
And, of course, that starts... I don't know how she wasn't thrown out for that, either, but...
She got scolded for it. That was close enough.
And, of course, they have a musical number to it during the end credits, which is interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was really surprised by how consistently hilarious it is, because it seems like something that's concept might kind of run dry.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. This is what's great about this movie. My least favorite genre ever is period pieces and costume dramas.
Correct.
Like, that's why you won't catch me... I won't be caught dead watching BBC. I know it's a generalization because there's other things on BBC, but generally BBC is costume dramas and period pieces.
We watched the BAFTAs on BBC.
So, basically, this movie is the closest we're ever going to come, probably, to a parody of period pieces.
Yeah.
And costume dramas.
Or if it's not, it's going to be the one that's actually going to be done correctly and not look like it's straight to video.
Yeah, if this is your kind of thing, like, I say parody, but even if you, like, love period pieces and costume dramas, you still should get a kick out of this.
Yeah, definitely.
I think you'll see it as a good-natured ribbing. Like,
without question.
I mean, I would love to have a movie come along that just tears the fuck out of period pieces, but this does it in like a loving way,
a tongue-in-cheek way.
Yeah. So that's fine. It's a really in movies that are hardcore emotionally or like hardcore violent or something like that. All the shit we see in a year
in this video.
A movie like this is just really nice and refreshing.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, there's really nothing to dislike about it.
It's fun.
Yeah.
And it's entertaining. And it's, like you said, it's laugh out loud hilarious. But you brought up Jason Schwartzman, too.
Yeah, that's who Andrews reminded me a lot of. It's like, I'm trying to remember which... There's a Schwartzman character in particular that's not his character in Marie Antoinette that I'm thinking of. I don't know. But, yeah, I really felt like... the guy that played Andrews was brilliant.
Okay, he's awesome.
But I just couldn't get out of my head, why do I feel like this is supposed to be Jason Schwartzman? So, yeah, that's pretty much that. So, if you can find it, I would totally check it out, even if it doesn't look like it'd be your thing. I seriously never thought I would really like a movie that's poster says, I love Mr. Darcy.
Yeah,
there's even
what you mean there.
At the end, at the airport, when she's there at the counter, there's like this guy behind her that we don't acknowledge him and we've never seen him before. It's just this random guy in the background wearing an I Heart Mr. Darcy shirt.
Yeah.
She's even got it like on her bag and stuff. So yeah, I'd look into that.
It's really
I don't know how you're ever going to come across it, but if you happen to, like when it comes out on DVD and shit, I'd definitely look into it.
It's worth a watch, without question.
Our last movie, there's no source material, I hadn't read anything, I hadn't read a script or anything, so my memory on it is probably not as keen as it was on these past two. Though it was, like, number 10 on my anticipated, I think.
Yes.
The Casey Affleck and Rooney Mara and Ben Foster movie, Eighth and Body Saints, which basically people were putting over as a modern-day Badlands.
Okay, which I've never seen.
Which Badlands is basically a retelling of Bonnie and Clyde, more or less.
That's what I got the Bonnie and Clyde out of it, completely.
But the thing, because it looks so, the poster and all the shots in the trailers look so Malicky, everybody's jumped to Badlands.
Okay.
And it's not as good as Badlands. Which is really weird for me to somewhat...
Put over Malik.
Yeah, but Badlands is his best movie by far, and it is really good. It's nice and short, too.
That's good. That's something that doesn't happen very often in Malik movies.
And like I said, it's got scenes indoors, if you can believe it.
Wow, that's amazing! This had a few, too.
Yeah. But, yeah, it's... it's kind of hard to come up with what to say about this movie, because here's the thing. I'm gonna lay it on. This is what people I'm about to say about Ain't the Body Saints. What people normally want out of my reviews when they complain that they're so long.
Yeah.
I'm going to review Ain't the Body Saints for you in about 3 sentences.
Okay.
Of course, it's pretty well shot. It's really, really dark.
Yeah.
So, like, if you're like tired, I wouldn't recommend watching it, especially if you're in a dark room, because it's just a whole lot of darkness.
Yep.
But it's still shot in an effective way, and it's really, really well written. It's got a lot of great dialogue pieces, despite obviously it's not as Malicky as you're expecting it to be, and it's not as Malicky as it was built up to be, but still, there's a lot of silences and a lot of shots.
Yes.
But when the dialogue comes out, unlike a Malick movie, it's really, really well written.
I like the dialogue a lot.
Casey Affleck has a lot of good, long, like, monologuing.
Yes, definitely.
And it's got a good story too. It's a basic story that we've all seen before, but it's Ben Foster was the cop that was there when Casey Affleck got arrested.
Yes.
And they were both. They think it was just Casey Affleck that was doing wrong, but it was both of them.
Yeah.
But they haul off Casey Affleck and they pretty much let her go. And
she gets acquitted.
Yeah, and she's got a baby.
Yeah.
And she ends up becoming friends with Ben Foster. And he's basically the other guy.
It kind of reminds me of brothers without the actual brother relationship.
Yeah. It's like, not only am I not your brother, I'm the guy that fucking arrested you. But there's no real, we have no idea throughout the movie what side she's on. But I think that's the way it's supposed to be, because we don't know if... The big question is Casey Affleck coming back for her?
Correct.
Because word got out that he's out. But nobody knows where he is, because he broke out.
Of course.
If I remember correctly. Yeah. And he's got dudes hunting him that want him dead, and...
Got bounty hunters after him. And
Keith Carradine's there, and...
Nice.
Everybody basically knows each other in one way or another.
Yeah.
But we don't really know, and we know time has passed because the daughter is like 4. I think Ben Foster said 3 or 4 now.
Yeah.
And the character names are escaping me, so they're just their actor names.
Ooh,
you have an anecdote about their names.
Yes, we'll talk about that in a minute.
But you don't really know, like, it's never really determined how she feels towards Ben Foster. Like, he kind of comes off as like the leechy guy that won't go away when you kind of want him to, but you don't want to be cruel to him. Like Ben Foster, the lost puppy. But at the same time, you don't know what direction she's gonna, because you can't really tell if she. At least I didn't get this.
She reciprocates the feelings.
There'll be this is an art house movie. There'll be people that say, that is not what happened at all. This was clearly what they were saying. But
there would not watch this video.
But regardless, it's hard to tell if she thinks he's coming back or not, and whether or not she's gonna maybe go into this thing with Ben Foster or continue to wait on him.
She also writes in the note basically saying, "Dude, don't come back for me," but she contradicts herself and basically says, "I know you're going to come anyway."
And it's also kind of hard to tell her relationship with Ben Foster because of the fact that he's a cop.
Yeah.
It could be a number of reasons she's keeping him around. But nothing is really laid out completely.
Well, he tries to be like, I can't say like a surrogate dad. Yeah, I'll go with that. He kind of tries to be a surrogate dad to the daughter, but the problem is when everybody walks away, when she goes out of the picture, she looks at him and like, "What are you doing? Why are you still here?"
Then there's, there's this, like I said, this is definitely one of those people who are really into art house movies will have a lot more to take away from it than people like me or you.
Yes.
Like, there was this particular shot that I don't know why it stuck in my head, it just did, but, props to it for sticking in there.
There you go.
That's what good shots do, but it was just this random shot of Casey Affleck sitting in the room, and he's got this light on behind him. Mm-hmm. It's just like one of those hanging bulbs.
Yeah.
And the camera just kind of pans around, and the bulb kind of like, comes into the shot from behind him. Yeah. It's like, is this supposed to symbolize something? I can't tell. It's like, that's the thing, is I feel like when you watch art house movies, you never know if you're overanalyzing or not analyzing enough. It's hard to tell.
True.
Depending on how abstract they are. But I was thinking, it reminded me of a shot in Collateral. Michael Mann said he did it by accident, but it was just perfect. It sounds kind of pretentious when I say it, but if you see the shot, it was just like this really happy accident that happened, apparently.
Okay.
It's the spoiler for Collateral. It's the scene where Vincent dies.
Mm-hmm.
He, there's like a silhouette, they're on the train, obviously.
Yeah.
And there's silhouettes of trees going by, kind of slowly, like as the train moves. And, just as Vincent keels over dead, the, silhouette of a tree comes out from behind him, and it looks exactly like his life passing out of him.
Wow.
So I think Michael Mann said that was an accident, but for some reason that's what it reminded me of.
Understandable.
So, yeah, I don't really know. There's not... While I can comment this movie for a lot of things, there's really nothing to it. And like I said, if you're really into analyzing like art house movies, I'm sure you'll find it. I'm sure it'll be a gold mine for you. Like you can say, "Oh, this means this and this means this." And
yeah.
I can look at Ben Foster's expression and feel this. People were talking Ben Foster Oscar talk when this was at Sundance, and I didn't really, as much as I love Ben Foster, I didn't really come away saying like, "Oh my God, that was magnificent." So nothing really blew me away about this movie. But like I'm sure it's probably a multiple viewing movie.
Mm.
Just the question is if I'll be inclined to give it that rewatch later. I don't know. But yeah, it's not. Despite the fact that it was on my most anticipated list, I wouldn't say I'm disappointed because I knew to kind of be in for something like this,
okay.
Something very not straightforward and
of course.
Told more in a visual style than a storytelling style.
Correct.
So, yeah. Do you have much to say?
I'll be totally honest. I did like what I saw. I liked
what you saw.
I'll go with that. I did like what I saw. I like Casey Affleck in the movie. Casey Affleck's amazing in the movie.
He's not in it enough.
But he's not in it nearly enough. I'm sorry to compare the two, and I'm going to do it again. It's Place Beyond the Pines. It's that same syndrome.
That's the thing. That's another thing about this movie. Is it kind of sets itself up to be the love story between Casey Affleck and Rooney Mara with Ben Foster on the side.
Yeah.
Kind of throwing a wrench into things. Maybe or maybe not. But I thought it kind of went away from them a little too much.
Yeah.
Like...
I have to mention this before we finish this review. It's kind of funny, and I immediately latched onto this. The characters that Rooney Mara and Casey Affleck play are coincidentally Ruth and Bob. Ruth and Bob is the name of my grandparents. And I was like, this is interesting. So yeah. That was that's the closest thing to a personal connection I had to this whole movie.
So, yeah, I heard you start laughing when he signed the letter, and I was like, what, does he just find it funny because his name's Bob?
What's his last name? Up and down the water? Yes!
Going back to last week.
Last week's verses, yes.
So, yeah, I think that's pretty much this video.
So, the next time you will be seeing AJ is actually going to be 2 days from now, which will be the new verses, which is going to be, I'll throw it out right now, we're shooting them right now, because obviously... I'm in Florida right now, so needless to say, if you're watching this video, you may be able to see me in theme parks. If you want to run into me, you're more than welcome to. So, the verses for this coming week in 2 days will be... I don't remember which one we're doing first.
Childhood.
Childhood. There you go. Childhood is our cryptic comment. So, if you want to if you run into me at Universal or at Disney this week or the next week, with me, I guess, say hello and tell me you watch the channel. If you don't watch the channel, then don't lie to me. So, in the meantime, AJ, any parting thoughts?
No.
All right.